everyone, and welcome to the OnlyLandFans show. My name is Kendall Lejeune, and our guest today is Callan Faulkner. Callan Faulkner, an accomplished entrepreneur, has found success through her passion for automation and efficiency. With a background in marketing and technology automation, she has assisted Fortune 5000 companies in developing robust systems for B2C lead generation. In 2020, Callan's interest in land investing was sparked by a real estate podcast, leading her to establish Solterra, her land investing company. As she honed her lead generation strategies for her land business, she attracted attention from other real estate investors seeking similar solutions for modern lead generation, including texting, ringless voicemail, and cold calling, as well as automation like CRM, ChatGPT, Zapier, etc. This inspired Callan to create REI Optimize, a consulting company dedicated to helping real estate investors scale their businesses by setting up effective systems and generating consistent leads. Through her innovative approach and automation expertise, Callan has become a trailblazer in the land investing niche, sharing her knowledge and empowering others to succeed. Callan, thanks so much for joining us tonight. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like that intro was way too nice and much, but it was great.
Well,
So thank
I
you.
say everyone has to take the credit where credit is due. So we're
Yeah,
super excited to have you on. It's
thank you.
been a long time coming for sure.
For sure. I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We've got a really exciting show tonight. Let's just jump right in. Tell us, how did you get started in doing land deals?
Yeah, kind of the same as everyone else here. I was working the kind of a corporate gig. I was running a CRM consulting firm, and I listened to a podcast about land. I was kind of feeling like I wanted to do something with the cash that I had and wanted to put it to work. And I also knew that I have absolutely zero skills in the house remodeling situation. Hanging picture frames is not my thing. So land felt more doable. This does not require any handyman skills. So that was literally the reason why I got into the land game. And then got into a training program, slowly started learning the basics. I have a lot of friends and peers that are in the wholesaling space, self-storage space, apartment syndication world. And I kind of was telling them about how they were coaching me to get started on marketing and how they were coaching me on mail. And they were like, that sounds awesome, but why are you not doing all these other things that we're doing? Well, that's true. I would love to try those things. So slowly started doing that. And here we are 3 years later.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Always great to borrow from other industries, I say.
Totally.
Get lots of really creative strategies that way. So you mentioned a land course. Did you have like a mentor or a coach when you got started? How did you learn?
Yeah, I went originally through the Land Geek flight school program, and it was good for me. I mean, I didn't even know what a deed was when I started this. So
Wow.
down to the basics, and I'm a big fan. That was one of the first group programs that I went through, and I felt like, it wasn't a big investment, but it had homework each week, and they forced you to buy land. And, there are a lot of things I liked about that model, and it really forced my partner, John, and I, who was my formal financial advisor, actually now owns Solterra 50/50, our land investing company. And it forced us to get to work. And I think it really fast tracked us. So we had good success coming out of that program.
That is fantastic. Now, how long have you had Solterra?
We went through flight school in July of 2020.
Wow. Okay. So sort of like
In 3 years.
almost a pandemic project, right?
100, well, yeah, wasn't everyone like, I need to change my life during the pandemic? I need to
Yes.
reevaluate everything. Yeah, for sure. We're like, what can we do differently?
Yes. Some people bake bread, some people started land companies.
Totally. Yep. My wife developed the sourdough thing, and I started a land company. So there's, something for everybody.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So, what types of deals did you first start doing when you first entered the land space?
The desert square, the buy for 1,000, buy for 1,000, sell for $200 on terms for 10 years. I am a it's one of my biggest strengths and biggest weaknesses is high achiever vibes. So it was really hard for me in the beginning to see how I was going to make $1 million doing that. And we did a couple deals and it was so much work to make 10 grand. I was like, I have to do bigger stuff. Like I can't, unless we hired more and built a bigger team, but I wasn't ready to do that. So we kind of started jumping pretty quickly into that buy for 10, sell for 25 kind of thing. And we've just kind of slowly been working our way up from there.
Excellent. So can you talk to us a little bit about what was going through your mind when, you've gotten a few Desert Square deals under your belt, and then you said, you know what, this is a lot of work. If I'm going to be putting this much work in, I need much bigger margins. So what was that shift for you like when you shifted to a bigger type deal?
Yeah. I mean, we did one of our we went to the Desert Square, and then we slowly, for those of you that work with me, we found this area in Nevada. It's called Pahrump. That was like one of the first areas that we started mailing, and I think we did a deal where we made like $15,000. We like bought it for two and found this company that was buying a bunch of properties nearby, and they bought it for 17,000 like a week later. And I was like, okay, it just becomes addicting. You get the dopamine hit, like, okay, I could do, 10 of those, or I could do one more 10 of the small ones, or one more of those ones, which is the same amount of work. And it just was, I mean, I don't know what other way to put it other than addicting to feel more of a hit with the same amount of work. So it was that slow roll of, I don't think you can't start big, right? You got to build your confidence up to get a couple of them. Like, okay, I'm going to try for 1,000. Okay, I'm going to get it. Now I got a couple more of these. But it was, I mean, I think exciting just to start to see some of these bigger hits come through. And yeah, I would have never imagined where the deals we're doing now are a lot more work than those deals. But they're a lot more reward too, which is fun.
That's excellent. So what types of land deals do you specialize in now?
Well, we have kind of two sides of the business. We have our flipping side, which pays the bills and more. We could have a very wonderful business just doing flips. We're very heavy in Florida, west coast of Florida. So we do, the classic is the buy for 25, sell for 50. That's kind of like our wheelhouse right now. Kind of the average of 25K profit. We usually use a realtor, kind of kicking them 8% typically. So kind of in the 20K profit margin after all that. Those are great. Those keep the lights on. That gets, people paid and bills paid. And I think there's a lot of scale that could be done on that side for us too. But it just requires more manpower, because especially as we'll get into on texting and RVMs and doing all this modern marketing, you are fielding a lot of inbound conversation. And so to get to the place where we're doing 10 million a year on that side, we're gonna need more manpower. And then we have the entitlement side of the business. So that's the side where we're actively looking for opportunities to rezone land. The first kind of opportunity we came across that we really figured out where this is possible was a multifamily deal in the Tampa area, where it's currently zoned as agricultural, and the county wants it to be multifamily. They want it to be an apartment building, and we're kind of going through the numbers of, oh wow, we could take this piece of land that's currently worth about probably $1 million, go through this rezoning process that isn't super expensive, just more time consuming and kind of herding cats in a way, and potentially make multi seven figures on this one deal. Lots of time, lots of energy, but there's a lot of money to be made in that world. So that's never going to be our main focus. We have to have the flip side to keep everything moving and to make money in the meantime, because these deals are multi-year, but we are putting a lot more energy into that side of the business than we ever have.
Yeah, that's really incredible. And what a great nugget right there. I know so many people, as soon as you start learning about larger deals and larger opportunities, it's so tempting to say, I'm going to put everything, all my eggs in that basket. But, like you mentioned, sometimes those deals can take, a year, multi-years. And
Yeah.
so you've got to have that engine of those land flips going as well.
Or they fall through because there's endangered tortoises. on the property, or there's a sinkhole, or there's oak trees that are endangered. Like there are literally 100,000, probably thousands of ways a deal could die. And that's where, especially coming from a very high anxiety job, I'm sure we all have, we all wouldn't be doing this if we didn't experience some, discomfort in maybe a corporate role. I really don't want to create that anxiety for myself. And to have these big deals, the moment you need that deal to go through for your business to stay alive is the moment you're going to become desperate and you're going to make decisions that aren't based on facts. And
That's huge.
the emotion and the emotions kick in. And I mean, I even feel it too in some of these deals. Like, this is not a therapy session, but it might become one. I have a really high need to be liked from my childhood. So I notice myself when I'm negotiating with the seller, I'll come back to my team and be like, okay, we have to close this by next week. And they're like, why? I'm like, well, the seller needs to go buy this thing. And they're like, we're not doing this so that the seller can go and do these things. So anyways, getting a little bit into it, it just becomes, it's a very big emotional journey, these deals where there's, $2-3 million on the line.
Absolutely, yeah. And I can imagine the more zeros to those deals, the higher the emotional toll.
Totally. And like, I'm only 32, but even now I'm like, I don't need the roller coaster. I mean, of course I like the adrenaline rush, but that's why we keep the flipping side. The flipping side pays for everything. We'll retire on it. It'll be amazing. We don't have to have any of these deals go through for us to be really happy, is kind of what I'm getting at.
The rest is gravy. I love that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So talk to us a little bit about sort of that bread and butter land flipping model. Are you currently closing on all of those properties? Are you wholesaling it? What does that model look like?
Both. It depends on how confident we are in the area. There are areas where we're like, yeah, I know the streets and I know what those are going to sell for. I have no problem buying something at 50K or 75K or more if I know how confident we are. Then there's newer areas where we're not as confident, where we will try and get permission from the buyer to list the property to test the market and see if our pricing was right. And we're really in the beginning of doing this. Back to my anxiety. We tried to do the double close and it would get to the very end. And it's just like, I don't need that in my life. Like no one needs that stress of the very end and then they see the property list on the MLS. At this point, we come to them and we're like, look, we don't know if we have the right price. I don't even know if this is the right option for us, but I do have a deep network of buyers. And would you be open to letting me try to sell this for the next 60 days? And they sometimes say, yes, sure, go for it. Okay, cool. So then we'll go do that, exclusive rights. And we try not to get into a situation where they don't know that we're listing it. It's just too much stress.
Always bet. Yeah. Talk about emotional toll, right?
Apparently I have one. All what I'm talking about. But yeah.
Love that.
Try to minimize it.
Always important, at least in my experience, to just be upfront and honest. That way there's no surprises. It's best to just rip the Band-Aid off in the beginning and say, hey, this is what we're doing. And it keeps things a lot cooler from an emotional standpoint, I find.
Totally. But most of the stuff we're doing, we're closing on buying it, listing it on land.com, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and on the MLS. If we have a great realtor in the area, we'll list it on MLS. If we don't, we will do a broker list or a MLS 2U, I think is another one that we've used in the past.
A lot of great dispo nuggets there. And I definitely want to dive into some of those in a moment. I'm curious, before we move on, can you talk to the people that are listening to this that, they have a pretty solid bread and butter model of their business where they're flipping land and they're pretty comfortable with doing that. But then they say, okay, it's serendipitous. I'm hearing Callan talk about entitlements. I've been wanting to do that forever. I don't know how to get involved with that. How would you advise those people?
Yeah, I think having a coach of some sort. We've been involved with Mike Marshall's group. It's called Entitled to Flip or Entitle and Flip, one of those, for a while. Here's the biggest thing, and I think a lot of us are like this, maybe most of us that are kind of visionaries. I don't really learn very well if you're like, go read this book. go learn with the book or go learn with these slideshows about zoning. I'm like, I would rather like scratch my eyes out than like read zoning code to try and understand it. The only way I learn is by doing it. So if you really want to get started, here's what I would do. I would start for you, YouTube University, right? Like start understanding what is a rezone. Okay. Start kind of understanding these concepts of, okay, well, if I see a piece of land that's currently zoned, well, first of all, my VAs weren't even looking at what the current zoning was. Like we didn't really care, right? We weren't really looking at the rules of zoning, trying to have them start understanding this concept of what zoning even is. That's a great place to start. The second thing is start looking at a piece of land and start thinking. It's hard to do this because you've trained them so long to look at the land as it is, but start to look at it of what it could be. So if you see a property that is zoned agricultural, but you notice that there are parking lots nearby and there's maybe a strip mall over there and there's like townhouses or a hotel. Okay, now we're operating in a place that has multiple zones. So it's possible, we don't know, that maybe this agricultural or residential could be rezoned to one of these other things because everything else is nearby. So I think it just starts by teaching whoever's on your front lines of reviewing deals, starting teaching them to think a little differently. Don't just look at this as a 10-acre property. Look at the houses, look at all the lots nearby. Okay, there's a bunch of quarter-acre lots right next to this property. So that means that this property could be what those are over there. Bring that to me right away so that I can start to look and see what this could be instead of just looking at it. And then it really just is calling the county planning and zoning, pretend you know nothing. Hey, I'm thinking about buying this property, wondering if you think I could split it up. Could I make them smaller or could I rezone this to anything else? Do you guys have any plans for this area that you'd be open to doing besides just having this be residential agricultural?
Yeah, that's a really, really great sort of little action guide right there. So you mentioned this a little bit earlier when talking about sort of the emotional toll that comes with some of these larger land deals, but what would you consider to be some of the biggest challenges in doing a large land deal?
I think in this business, and as business owners, we have a tendency to want to know everything. Like we want to know, we don't want to feel stupid. We don't want to feel stupid when someone asks us, do you need a phase one? What's a phase one? I have no idea what a phase, you don't want to be that person in an engineering conversation. You don't want to be the person that's like, what do you mean Jayhawks, Jaybirds? Like what, can go rock chalk Jayhawks. Like, I don't, you don't want to pretend like, well, I not even pretend, not know everything. I think coming to the realization that when it comes to these entitlement development deals, it is who, not how. You are never going, people go to school for years. They get their masters in land development and civil engineering and all this crap. Like you're never going to know how or to do all these things or even what all these things are. So you have to find the experts and you have to trust the experts and be okay paying $20,000 for this full due diligence that this property may never work. Clint Turner posts about this all the time, like lost 50K on another deal. And I love when he does that because it's true. You can't get to this place and make multi-millions of dollars if you're not okay paying the experts and losing money and not exactly knowing everything about what needs to be done, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a different mindset, isn't it? Especially for people, my background, I came from the housing industry, and one of the things that I found in real estate investors, specifically doing single family houses, is that oftentimes we're not super comfortable doing collaboration or team projects. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to, right? You can be a single family landlord by yourself or flip houses by yourself, but it's that mentality of shifting to be a team and bringing people on and you know working at it from a team perspective. It definitely is
Totally.
a mindset shift.
Totally. These first 5 big entitlement deals, I was talking to my partner earlier. I was like, I literally don't care if we walk away with 20% of the profit on these big 5 deals. If there's $1 million on the table and I walk away with 200K and I get to see this entire thing happen start to finish, that is worth every penny. But sometimes we get a little caught up in, I don't want to give up profit. What are you gaining by giving it up to Gary, the developer that's been working in this area for 30 years? And you could split the profit with him and he would take you all the way through and teach you along the way. That is my whole thing these next couple of years. Of course, there's lots of money to be made, but I would much rather get exposure to all this than trying to get every dollar.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. The way that I look at it is you are literally getting paid to gain experience
Yes.
and expertise in doing a land deal, you know?
Yes.
And like you said, when you're dealing with these multi-million dollar deals, a crumb of that kind of a deal is
Sure.
a huge payday sometimes,
Great.
you know?
Great.
Sign me up.
Sign me up. Exactly.
I love that. So, in your business, in terms of your business model, do you raise funds for your own deals?
Yeah, we
How
do.
how do you go about doing capital raising?
Yeah, I've got a pretty deep network here in Minneapolis where I'm from. So I've got a few mentors that I go to when we have big deals. They trust me, and that's amazing, so I don't have to give every single detail of everything that's going on. We typically, it's really nice finding folks that are not in the land investing world. No offense to anyone that does funding, but typically in a real estate investing deal, they're really excited to make 25% on their money. Like that is an unbelievable investment. So we typically are structuring things in that way. We just pitched an investor today on a deal that is in the land investing community. And I'll pitch anyone. I think in this, it's just about asking for help. Like if you posted in the RE tipster group right now, hey, I got a deal, I got to buy for 100, sell for 180, need help. I guarantee you there'd be 30 people that are like, yo, send me the deal. And Justin Sleeba, I know you've had him on. He says all the time, it's the deal, not the person. I don't care if you've never done a deal before. If you've got a deal, bring it to me. So we've talked to folks locally, but typically we're taking on money from outside the land investing space at a preferred return.
Excellent. And so, what's your question? What's your answer to the question? What do you do?
Oh, what do I do? I typically say that I am a land investor, and I really believe that I'm a technology automation consultant first, land investor second. The moment I became a land investor, I married the two worlds together and started coaching real estate investors on automation. And usually people stare at me with a blank stare after that.
Cool.
They're like, okay, all right. Just trying to make conversation. Yeah.
Go back to reading my book on the plane.
Sorry about that. Yep.
That is too funny. I love that. So I ask many people this, just about every person on the show, I ask them this question. And so I definitely want to hear your perspective on this. But where do you see the market going now? And what are you going to do to thrive in the upcoming market?
Yeah, I think we're already feeling it. I mean, when we first started getting into things, you'd put something on the MLS and it would sell immediately. You could literally put a picture of a blade of grass and people are like, yes, I want to I want to buy that.
Get me.
I don't care where it is or what it is. I want it. It's not like that anymore. I think we're kind of falling into that. People are a little bit more hesitant. I know on the bigger development side, I think everyone's feeling this, but maybe not, but just the bigger conversations with the DR Hortons, the Pulte's, the Lennars, they've canceled a lot of contracts on doing these bigger subdivisions. So I think we're going to find that, new home builds are going to be slower, and they already are, as long as interest rates are higher. And I think that we're going to have to double down on building long-term relationships with sellers, because at this point, and I think this is, if you want to compete in this market, we're taught, even every course that I've gone through, to kind of go for the kill with that letter and go close the deal right now. And we're really trying to take the approach of, let me get saved in your phone kind of vibe. Save me as like the land sale gal. And if you ever want to get an evaluation on your land, or if you ever want to chat about maybe an offer, call me, because I'll be here for the next at least 10 years, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And talk about a shift. I think, you're so right that we coming off of this hot market where it's like, you know, everyone was looking to buy property and um, I think that shift of not trying to kill just in that very first contact, but nurturing that
Yeah.
seller, playing the long game is really important.
Totally. I mean, we already see this. I mean, I recognize a lot of names on this call, people that have been doing this for a long time. Like I think to really see results in this game, you can't just keep mailing, texting, whatever, new markets and just keep moving. Like you have to mail, text, voicemail, call, like that same place over and over again. Like be there, because most people that come into this go through a program, send a bunch of mail, don't get results, and get gone. And they're the ones that kind of give, unfortunately, people don't know how to price mailer, or, they make it hit and they try to go for it right away. I think that's where we're going to be able to stand out.
That's where that opportunity is for sure. So I'm very excited to talk to you about marketing. I know that marketing is a big forte of yours and automation. And so this segs perfectly into the next question that I have. So in terms of marketing, how many touches are you typically finding that it takes to be able to start getting these land deals under contract?
Yeah. We're probably around the 4 or 5 touch point right now. I would say the last like 4 months. I am actually shocked about when I look in launch control. We'll send the first text and then we do 3 follow-up texts if you don't respond. And if you would ask me, when we first started, like, are you going to send 4 texts to somebody that doesn't respond? I'd be like, oh my God, no, that's such a waste of time. There's no way they're ever going to respond. And they do respond after 4. And then now we're layering in kind of a regular cadence of following up with the voicemail and saying, hey, I sent you a text, not sure if you got it. And then mails are typically our third step, but I think a healthy 4 or 5 over that 4 or 5 month period is really what it's taking.
Wow. Yeah. So different from, hey, I saw that you have some land, want to buy? Or want to
Right.
sell? Yep, here's the contract, sign it, boom, 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 right?
Totally.
So, can you talk to us, give us a little bit of nuts and bolts about what are you finding working? You've mentioned text messages, you've mentioned dripping those texts, you've mentioned, the mail. What are you finding is working currently in terms of your marketing flow? What does that look like?
Yeah. Well, I think they all work. Yeah. Shout out to Brad real quick. Brad is owning the chat. So thank you, Brad, being the resident note taker. Appreciate that. I think first and foremost, it all works. And every person that you're reaching out to has a different preference as to what way they'd rather respond to you. And so that's our job to figure out. You might have part of your list that is just really would just rather text you. Okay, well, then we should probably get in front of them with texting. There are people that really are never going to trust you unless they hear your voice. Okay, well, then we have to call or drop a voicemail. And then there's people that we know that are just would rather get mail and respond to that because maybe they appreciate that and that's their vibe. So I'm never going to be like, this is the number one marketing channel. I'm a huge believer in having multiple sources of leads. This is an Alex Hormozy thing. He went to go sell his company and one of his first companies, and he only had one lead source. And the folks that were going to buy his company were like, oh, you only have one lead source? That thing could get shut down in 2 seconds, or they could price you out and you're done. So that was the kind of the first thought of, okay, I should really have multiple eggs in one basket. And then the second thing is the way we've set up our marketing is really more about ease. It is so much easier to text an area and just get some feedback. We texted Port St. Lucie, Florida, for example. This was like last year. It was all like the quarter acre little infill lots. Every single person was like 100K, 100K, 100K for the quarter acre. Okay, well, clearly the builders have been through here and they've picked up scraps and they've just been working this area. We spent, I don't know, we probably texted 5,000 people. That was probably a couple $100 on skip tracing. And then launch control at the time was like $500 a month. So, okay, let's just say all in, we spent $500, $600. to test a market, great, no problem. If I had spent mail, it would have been $2,500 and maybe 4 or 5x the cost. So I like starting with the text to kind of feel out a market. Then I like the ringless voicemails. They are 6,000 drops for $250 a month. So easy. We can get more into the legality of all that in a minute. And then Nathan, I don't know if you're excited about me or if you're excited about something else, but you are excited about something. Yeah. And then mail is kind of our number 3. So if we're like, okay, we like this area, things are selling, we feel good, we've got a nice realtor, we've got the team, we've got the title company. Okay, let's mail this area. Now we're ready to do that.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Now, if you had to quickly diagram and say, okay, we send out that first text message to an area to sort of test it and kind of get a feel for that market. You mentioned that you had maybe 3 or 4 follow-up text messages. At what point do you go to the next phase of dropping a ringless voicemail?
Yes. Can I share a screen on here?
Yeah, let's see.
Am I allowed to do that? Let's see if I can do that. Oh yeah, make me a co-host. And I think I'll be able to. Sorry for podcast people. I will explain it. It's just for those that are in the room. You are going to be able to. Alrighty. So this is an example of day 1. We would send texts in launch control. So that would be day 1. You're sending text to people for the first time. 45 days later, and you might be like, 45 days later, why the hell are you waiting that long? Well, launch control, well, not launch control, really. It's the carriers really want you to wait 30 days from the day you send your first message to somebody. And that's just protecting the consumer. It's not necessarily a TPCA thing. Their carriers are just trying, and launch control is just trying to say, hey, look, let's not berate people with text messages. Let's give them some breathing room. So they make you wait 30 days. So we say day 45 because I want to be fully through those first 5,000 texts. That usually takes about 2 weeks. Okay, day 45, we could argue that everyone has been 30 days. So then we send our first follow-up text. This is actually our second text message. And then right after we send that second follow-up, that's when we'll drop our first voicemail. So you'll notice that we're typically getting about a 20% response rate in launch control, 15 to 20%. So as people start to respond on text, that list that we've pulled slowly starts to shrink down. So you started with 5,000 people, maybe you get 15, 20% response rate. Now you're texting 4,200 people and dropping a voicemail to 4,200. Then we start our new campaign of a different area or second half of the list on day 45, and we'll send a new text. But let's just follow along with the red so we can go through this cadence. Then day 90, we'll send us, this is our third text message to the people that have not responded. And then we'll drop that second voicemail. So, hey, blank, still haven't heard from you. Not sure if you got my message. If this isn't the right person, just let me know. No problem. And then day 135, that's when we're doing this is technically our fourth text to someone and then our third ringless voicemail. At that point, we're about 4.5 months in, and we are now coming back together as a team and saying, what do we want to do with this area? Do we want to continue with more expensive marketing? Do we want to get some cold calling going? What's our game plan next? So after that, it kind of depends. Or we want someone full-time just looking on the GIS to find entitlement opportunities. It just depends on the results of that first campaign and what our energy is at that area.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Very, very helpful. Now, if someone's listening to this and saying, oh my gosh, this sounds incredible, but I don't even know how to pick a target market area. How do you go about picking that target market?
Yeah. Okay. So this is one of those things where we could overcomplicate it all day long. And I could be like, days on market need to be less than this and this, this, and that. And you need to have this land score index. Here are the basics. I really like when I'm looking at markets using a site called Xomi, Xome. If you guys are familiar with that, it's kind of like a Zillow. But I like it because when you're looking at sold land, let's just say in the last 3 months, I like to figure out first and foremost, what price do you want to buy land at? Do you want to buy land that's $100,000? Or do you want to buy land that's more in that $10,000 to $30,000 range? Well, if you're in that $10,000 to $30,000 range, then I would want to see, show me the whole United States of all the land that is sold between $20,000 and $60,000. And let's just start with those markets. Like, where are the pockets? Now, I am not a huge fan of going after the hugest bubble. Okay, oh my God, there's so much land selling in Port Charlotte, Florida, wherever that is, where everyone goes. I like the tier 2, the tier 3s. Okay, so let's find those maybe tier 2, tier 3 pockets. And then let's just start exploring it. Let's look at what kind of land is selling there. Flip on the for sale. Is there 5x for sale that's been sold in the last 3 months? Probably not a good fit, because there's a lot of inventory everywhere. So you can't let that totally deter you, because you're going to see a lot of inventory no matter what. But just make sure it's not like 5 or 6x what's been sold in the last 3 months. And then 6 months, I would say. And then from there, you got to call realtors. If you've never been to this area before, start calling the realtors, the people on the ground. Hey, what's happening down there? I'm a land investor. I buy land all day long. I'm looking for an agent to partner with. Wondering if you had 5-10 minutes for me to pick your brain on the market. What are buyers saying? Are you getting buyer calls? Who's calling you? What's their budget? What kind of land are they buying? We have to think like a buyer in the beginning. Oh, for example, in this area, and we're working in the Panhandle, we talked to the realtor. She's like, all of our buyers want land for their mobile home or manufactured home. Perfect. What's their budget? Typically around $40K. Okay, well, we found a 2-acre property that could sell for $80,000. Well, we know that buyers are typically not paying more than 40. So what do? Cut that baby in two. Now you got 2 properties. When you put that, we actually put that on the market at 80, no bites. Literally not one. We're like, oh, this property sucks. Probably can't be buildable. I don't know what we're missing. No, we just didn't price it right, because everyone in this market is buying land for mobile homes max 40K. So you can't put something out there 80,000. You're going to hear crickets. We would have never known that if we hadn't really understood the area a little bit more. And that broker is going to tell you things too, like, hey, guys, really make sure you get wetland surveys out here, because it looks like there's no wetlands on your little land ID map right system, but there are. They are not mapped properly in this area. So you really got to be careful. Or, hey, if you don't apply for a septic permit before you do this, you'll be charged $1,000 every time you deed it without a septic permit already applied for. All this crazy stuff. I'm going on and on and on, but you get what I'm saying. Go talk to an expert. Go talk to an expert in the area. Don't try to learn it all. Again, who, not how. I'm not going to become an expert in Knoxville, Tennessee in a half hour on my Google search, or ChatGPT won't be able to help you. Go talk, buddy.
Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. And yeah, there aren't that many people that I've spoken to about this particular topic that have that specific piece of advice of getting on the phone, calling realtors. I know there are some people that do use land agents, especially on, in the dispo process, but fantastic idea to get with a land expert in that area to sort of guide and teach you in that way. That's excellent. And so how do you choose? You mentioned that some different price points. How do you choose which price point you're even going to look for?
Yeah.
What kind of criteria do you look for in the deals that you're doing?
Yeah, I think I like to always be marketing to kind of all the price points. Like, I like to have the smaller deals come through. Our fixed expenses every month are kind of around that like $20,000 mark. And so we need to cover that. Okay, well, one small deal, 2 small deals covers that, and we're good to go. It's low stress, love it. So I like to have marketing going to that, but I wouldn't do a deal unless we're going to make at least 15,000 after broker fees. That's kind of our floor, because it's, how it is, like finding a buyer. You can talk to 100 people and it takes a long time. So there is a break even point at some point there. But then we definitely are looking for some of those bigger deals. I found we did a couple campaigns to some more sophisticated areas like Reno, Nevada, and those were really hard. Those sellers know what they have, and they've had the property for a while. They were going to build, so they understand it. So the bigger deals that we're doing are kind of more of those like 3-4 acre residential rural kind of vibe lots, and we're always looking for those ones, especially right now. I think the people that aren't being affected by interest rates are people that have businesses, they have cash, and if they want to build their dream house on 4 acres, they're going to do it. It doesn't matter if the economy is going down. So that's kind of that type of product that I really want to always have in our inventory.
Yeah, that is fantastic. I love that idea of sort of a multi-pronged approach to your marketing for the types of deals that you're going after. That's great. So, if someone, let's say someone has been used to, you know, doing lead gen, finding a market, they decide to mail to that market, they send out a few thousand mailers, doesn't work, they move on to the next market. Can you talk to that person about, okay, this is typically what we're finding people are messing up on the most when it comes to
Yeah.
marketing, and this is how automation can help with that?
Yeah. Um, I think in the beginning, the hardest thing that everyone just expects to be really good at right away is comping properties and knowing what things are worth. That is a skill set that takes years, years and years. And even me doing this for 3 years, 10 years from now, I'm going to be even better. I mean, I'm not an expert by any means. Put me in an area I've never been to before, and I have no idea. I don't know why that property is worth 100 and that one's worth 50. It doesn't make any sense. I can't tell. So I hate to be back on my realtor train, but in the beginning, really trying to find someone that can help you comp. And if that's like hiring a land coach that can oversee your deals. And like I mentioned before, if you're walking away with 30% or 50% of this deal, but you had other eyes on it and you had an expert looking at things, worth every penny. So don't be on your high horse of like, you have 50 grand to spend and you want to put it towards land. Like, go find money to buy your land for you and go spend money on having an expert coach be alongside you for these first 5 deals. I would have not even, like, going back to the beginning. I remember when John and I were doing our first couple deals and I was like, I would pay so much money right now to just know the flow. Like, when do I send the purchase agreement? When do I send the deed? How does it simplify? Like, when do I call the recording? Who is a recorder? I don't even know what these things are. So really get yourself a coach and try to have somebody. Don't pay out the wazoo for it, but there are a lot of people, even in this room, that would be willing to mentor a new land investor and do a couple deals with you, make some profit. That's no skin off their back, and there's money to be made. So share it to learn.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And so now, as an automation,
No, I didn't answer your question. Sorry.
well, that's okay. That's
You
okay.
said
Go ahead.
automation. Yep.
Automation. So, talk to us a little bit about how you use automation in your marketing flow and how
Yeah,
that's sort of changed your business.
for sure. Let's break down like what automation means too, because I think a lot of us are like, everything's just going to operate without me and I'm just going to go on a beach and like my whole business is going to work. That's not how this works. Let me tell you right now. So automation is there's 2 ways to automate something. Either you can automate it with a person. So a virtual assistant or somebody that works for you can take a task for you and they have a documented process and they know what to do. Or the technology can be doing it for you. So let's talk about kind of the flow that we have. So first and foremost, I would love the opportunity to sell my land business one day. I don't know for sure if I'm going to do that, but to get the highest value possible, if we do sell one day, no one wants to buy a company that doesn't have documented process. Doesn't have to be 100%, but maybe 20% of your biggest, value processes should be documented somewhere, and those should be revisited every couple months so that everyone's on the same page. Hot tip, if you have VAs that can do this, have them document the process, not you. It makes no sense for you to be like, this is the way we do it. And they're like, what?
We
What
don't
are
do
you
it
even
that
talking about? We do not do it that way. You're like, yeah, that's a good point. Learn from me. So on the automation side, we, from the downloading of our list. I did that for a long time. I documented the process. I created a Loom video. I created a checklist, and now my acquisitions manager does it. She hands it off to our tech manager to get it skip traced and gets it into CRM. Those things might not be necessarily automated, but everyone knows their role. Everyone knows the process. We're all in agreement, and it operates very much like a wheel. Like, we're just flowing. When the moment we decide to go into a new area, I literally have a button in Notion that says start campaign, and everyone gets assigned their task. And there's you have 5 days to get the list pulled and skip traced. It's, that task is dependent. So once that task is complete, it sets a task for Ashley. And now she is saying, hey, it's ready for CRM, it's ready for import into launch control. That's where we start our texting. And then once it's imported into launch control, she slacks the team, we're ready to go, we're ready to text. So again, we think of automation like everything's just flowing without people, but a lot of it is really just knowing what needs to happen and when. And the only way to figure that out is to do it wrong 5 times, mess up, try to figure out the process. It is not simple in the beginning, but once you do it a couple times, now you've got this flow down. And of course, some basic things, right? Like when people call in, it updates our CRM with the recording and the notes and that kind of thing. But every time a contact is added to our CRM system, it automatically adds into open phone so that when they call in, we can see who's calling. Yes, there's lots of things that are automated and fancy zaps. But for most of the people I'm talking to right now, if you can figure out a way for everyone to get on the same page about what's happening and when, at least for 20% of the things you do, that's when the magic starts to happen.
Yeah, that's really fantastic. And I love that approach of first and foremost recognizing that automation is not press a button and then 30 days later, oh, I look at all my land deal money that that came in, direct deposit, amazing. So can you talk a little bit about the process that you use when you are trying to figure out what to automate and when to automate it? Because there are
Yeah.
so many amazing tools out there that it's so easy for entrepreneurs. I can speak for myself to be like, oh my God, I need that in my business right now, and it's really just a fancy cool to have, and it just adds more friction to my
Dude,
process.
I think we could all raise our hand if we're like, what is something you've done when you really didn't need to do it? You just saw someone else had it. Or even in the beginning of starting a business where you're like, I have to have a logo. Who knows, a good Fiverr person, but you like don't know anything about land. You're like,
Right.
what are these priorities happening here? I don't understand.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And it can be, yeah, it can be really hard, especially as we get more advanced in the entrepreneur journey. Opportunity is everywhere, and the most successful people are the ones that learn how to say no to things. That's where I'm at right now. It's just like things coming at me. Oh, we could do this deal, but no, it has to be right. So it's same thing with automation. Um, 2 things. I mean, one, does this process currently take your time, and does it light you up? So if it's something that you really enjoy doing, but it takes you time, I'm not hard pressed to say you have to automate that right away. Let's say there's people on this call that really like doing that research and they like pulling the list and they like doing that. Okay, cool. That's fine. You can keep doing that. The moment that this becomes something that does not light you up and is taking you a lot of time, those are the tasks that need to be automated or delegated as fast as humanly possible. So for me, I do not like data. I do not like the details, little tiny little things, all these, gotta dot your I's and cross your T's and concatenate things. Nope, that is not me. And that's a reason actually why I moved away from mail, because it's so much work to activate a mailer. Got to get all your data right and price it all out perfectly and get the price. I'm like, I just need to get these babies out there and start getting responses. I'll figure out the price later. That's not necessarily the right way of doing it. I really would love for you to have the whole thing priced before you start texting. But it was just the way that I needed to do it, because I wasn't going to send any. I wasn't going to do it if I didn't do it that way. So yep, finding the things, and I talk about this book. I feel like I just need to be like a Dan Martell super fan, wear his shirt, but he has a book called Buy Back Your Time. I actually was able to spend a couple weeks ago, I was with his wife for the weekend, and they have such an incredible way of looking at things. They have kind of a quadrant, and our whole goal, all of us, is to get our time back so that we can go and do more things that either make us really happy or make us more money. That's really what we need to be doing. So over time, you're going to have to do the things you don't want to do to learn what the process is. But the moment you know what the process is, that's when we need to, and it's taking time and you don't want to do it anymore, then you have to figure out a way to get it off your plate.
Yes, that is huge. And I love that you mentioned the minute you figure out what the process is. I know that there's so many people that I've talked to that are like, I just need to hire someone to do this. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you want to hire them to do?
Right.
and they don't really know. And I'm like, well, explain your process. And they don't really know their process. So it's like, how can you teach someone that's just adding someone into your flow that doesn't, you have no clue what they're going to be doing or how to even coach them or help them through being successful in that task is just another friction point. Like now,
Unless you're willing to spend 100 grand on that
there you
person,
go.
right?
There you
And they
go.
are an A player and they can come in. I mean, that's the dream. You bring someone in, you're like, tell me what to do.
Yes.
That's a hundred
Yes.
thousand dollars or more. $100,000 or less, that is me coaching you on what to do.
Absolutely.
Down
So
to the T.
especially these people that are looking to grow their teams for the first time, add a virtual assistant. Virtual assistants are absolutely amazing. They were a game changer in my business, but wow, a full-time job if you're not prepared, right?
No doubt. No
Yeah.
doubt. Yeah.
So that's really fantastic stuff. Let me ask you, what are some of your main deal breakers? Like, I know a lot of people like to talk about what's your criteria for deals, but what kills deals in your opinion that you won't touch?
I am a big uh, can I put a home on this property gal. I am not a like, oh, well, this could be used for hunting, or oh, this could be a rattlesnake farm. Like, no, I don't mess with that. I am like, I want to be able to sell this quickly. And the people that want to buy land mostly want to be able to put a house on it. So that means we have to have water. It can be public water. It can be a well. We have to have a septic tank or public sewer. We have to have power, and we have to have a gas line. So those are really in road access, and we have to be able to drive a car on the property. And we can't, the wetness is really what breaks, being able to build. So I kind of work backwards on I don't think I've ever bought a property that we couldn't put a house on. Not saying that that is not possible. There are plenty of people that make a lot of money doing hunting land, and you're not allowed to put a house on there. But that is, I like to sell things fast. I do not want to sit on things, especially in this market. I don't want to be, trying to find that perfect buyer that wants this hunting land. Hunting land is a secondary property right now. So someone that wants hunting land doesn't need hunting land. They don't, that's kind of if the economy turns, which it probably will, that's not going to be necessary versus the person that really wants to put a house on a
Yeah,
property.
that's a really fantastic point. And I love that sort of reverse engineering thinking like the buyer. It goes back to that, right? Like what is a buyer going to need that you're creating a product that is actually in demand?
Yes.
That's fantastic. So what would you consider to be the most important needle moving activities daily for a newbie? So if someone is listening to this and they're like,
Mhm.
man, I really love this land thing and I really want to do this, but I'm now hearing stuff about VAs and automation and tech strips and all this other stuff. I don't even know how to get started. What would you tell them are the most important needle moving activities that they can take daily as a newbie?
That's a great question. I think if you are kind of two different camps, so I'll talk to the people that have W-2s right now. So your time is really limited. You have to, mail is a really great place to start. I actually really don't think texting or any of these other marketing sources are a good place to start for someone that's brand new and has really limited time, because you get so much response. When you're sending a text, you're not saying, hey, I would be willing to offer you blank for your land. You're literally just saying, hey, do you want to sell? Of course, everyone wants to sell. You get tons of people to respond to you. So I think finding, again, back to the coach, someone that can really coach you on pricing a good mailer, pay for that, because you are going to pay for it either way. If you take a stab at it yourself, I guarantee you don't know anything, you've never gone through a coaching, that's a shot in the dark on getting that mailer priced right. So pay someone to help you price a mailer. Yes, you're going to have to spend money. Like, there is no business out there where you can make money without having startup fees. So be okay with the fact that you might have to put 20 grand up and out there and give it a shot. If you aren't comfortable with that, find someone that has extra cash that's willing to fund your marketing for your land business. There are plenty of people out there that have the money that want to do this, but they just don't have the time. They don't have the energy to talk to sellers, and they don't have time to look at properties. So there's always ways to get resourceful. And then if you don't like being on the phone, that's going to be the first thing you have to hire. You have to be able to talk to sellers. You don't have to. Somebody does. Somebody's got to be able to talk to them and talk to Ken about his 10-acre property and the fact that his grandpa lived there. And yes, there are people that can do it without, and they just send the mailer and they send it back. But just with this market and this competition, you have to build a relationship. So getting on the phone, trying not to let it drag out too much, telling Ken, hey man, I got a call in 20 minutes, but is this an okay time for you? I've got about 15 to 20 right now. Is that okay? Reminding him, hey, just a heads up, I got a jet in 5 minutes. Even if you don't, just tell him you do. And
So true.
making sure that you're talking to people on the phone. That's huge.
Yeah, so many great nuggets in that. I love just being resourceful. If you've got a challenge in the business, there's always a solution. So just ask around, and there are ways to get over that. So that's fantastic. So let me ask you, in your opinion, what's something that very few people or no one is really talking about in the land industry right now that we should be talking about?
I feel like people are a little bit more now on just setting their systems up so that we can facilitate doing multiple touches to one person. And this is something I've been talking a lot about to my clients of, hey, if we're going to send mail, send a text, drop a voicemail, do cold calling, we now have to track their marketing status. Like, are they still cold? And you've never talked to them before? Or have they responded to something? Because if you send 10,000 texts and you get 1,000 responses, and you want to send mail, we don't want to send 10,000 pieces of mail. We want to send 9,000 pieces of mail because we've gotten 1,000 responses from people. That would be a waste of money. Now we have their phone number. We have their confirmed phone number. And sometimes we can grab their email if we find a unique way to get their email. Hey, I'd love to email you a copy of our agreement just so you can see it. Nothing specific to you. I just want you to see it. Or, hey, I'd love to send you our ebook on all the factors that we look at when we're assessing Florida land. So grabbing that phone, grabbing that email, and now putting them into a follow-up sequence. I mean, this is like classic B2C marketing, right? Like if you go to freaking Dairy Queen and they're like asking for your number for your birthday, they will drip you stuff forever to get you to come in and buy blizzards. Like we know this.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not rocket science, but we're really not talking about this in our space very much. And I think we should be.
Yeah, that's fantastic insight. And again, it comes back to that you have to nurture. You have to nurture. And what's that customer journey like for you? Because no one's going to say, especially if they've got, 20 acres, 30 acres. Yeah, sure. Here, one text message. Where do I sign? So,
Right.
so,
Well, Carl's on this call. Uncle Carl. He is the godfather of follow up until they sue you, pretty much. Like I will be on your doorstep if you unless you call the police.
No, that doesn't stop. We're positive stalkers. We go after people that they're tax delinquent, the heirs, and we stalk them to give them money. So I'm a positive stalker.
It's right. I'm here to help. I'm here to help. I'm not here to take. I'm not looking. Oh my God, an eye mascot. All right. I just want to give you money.
I want to give you money. I love it.
So good.
I love that. That's fantastic. That's so good. Wow. So shifting gears a little bit, Callan, what do you consider to be your superpower?
Honestly, I am a professional Googler. I will find any piece of information you need me to. It just the resourcefulness. I think a lot of us on this call, it's like I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. That's a great question. But I will figure it out, or I will find the person that knows how to figure it out. Almost to a fault. I go a little too far sometimes. My contractor, we're doing a remodel on our house right now. And he's like, do you have the house original plans? I was like, no, but I will find them. So I've spent the last 3 days going through ancestry.com, finding the original builder and his sisters, and like, you know, we've got some warm leads. Might need to call you, Carl, and find his full family tree. But I'll keep going. I'll figure it out.
Well, and that's such an important skill because, you know, how many times do you have to wear the detective hat in the land industry? Like, you know, like to
Those are the best deals we've ever done. The best deals we've ever done. And this is a huge back to Uncle Carl. He does this all the time. And he taught me a lot of this of the ones that have title issues or the ones that like have 7 sisters and it looks like it's a bad deal because you're like, oh, this is a lot of work, are the ones that no other investor wants to do.
Exactly.
And it's really not, I mean, of course, you're going to have little moments of dead ends and not really know. And there's one sister, you found all 6, but there's one more. Like, she's out there. Go find her. It's a little extra work, yeah, but there's $100,000 on the table. Like, we can figure that out.
Absolutely.
There's enough resources. We'll find that 7th sister.
Challenge accepted.
Right.
I love that. That's fantastic. So let me ask you, you mentioned a little bit, you know, you mentioned Alex Hormozy, you mentioned Dan Martell. Who are the other favorite entrepreneurs or business owners do you like to follow?
Dan Kennedy, this is so good for our land business. 10x is better than 2x. He just wrote a brand new book. Phenomenal. Yeah, gosh, Dan, I mean, Layla Hermosi, throw her out there. Cody Sanchez, she's a female entrepreneur out of I think she's in Austin. She's absolutely phenomenal. Buy boring businesses. I love her. She's definitely someone I look up to. And then Dan's wife, Renee Warren is her maiden name. She is PR marketing for women entrepreneurs. And I've gotten really lucky. I spent some money early last year and got into a pretty high level mastermind. And I was really nervous about putting that money up to do it. But I have met a few other women that are running, you know, $3 to $10 million companies. And I think all of us, you know, we have this land investing community, but it's really important that we are networking with people in other industries. Like I said, right when I came on, I would have never started texting and doing cold calling voicemails if I hadn't been talking to people in other industries about what they are doing. If we're only talking to our little niche, we're all just doing the same things. These guys they're in another, you know, ball field, a lot of these folks. And it's really fun to have these people as friends and mentors.
Yeah, that's absolutely remarkable. I always think that, you know, joining masterminds with people that are, you know, multiple steps, multiple years ahead of where you are can really create some magic. You know, just those opportunities and just being around that energy is just incredible.
For sure. Yeah, I think as long as I'm alive, I'm like, I always want to be paying to be in rooms with people that are doing 10x what I'm doing, because I will never be able to do 10x if I'm not surrounded by people that know how to do it or have the knowledge, right? But I think Alex Hormozi says this. It's like every billionaire just has information that you don't have. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Pay to be in that room. That's fantastic. Right. That is so good. That is so good. So let me ask you, if you could go back and tell yourself 3 pieces of advice when you were a newbie, what would they be?
Oh my God. Okay. I have a tendency to want to be tactical, but the first thing that comes to mind is just be patient. Because I think as us, we just want it to happen right now. I mean, I always feel that way. I'm like, it's not happening fast enough. It will happen. It can't happen overnight. Double down. For those of you that listen to or subscribe to the EOS Entrepreneur Operating System, what I would have given to spend time investing in that in the beginning of my business. I tried to recreate the wheel on everything. I'm like, no worries. I'll create a leadership agenda. No problem. I can do that. Yeah, no worries. Let me create our KPIs and I'll set the goals. I know how to do that. It's like, people have done this already. They have the templates. These already exist. Like, don't try to recreate all this shit. Like, go talk to some business coaches and say, hey, like, I'm really struggling with my KPIs. Can you spend an hour with me looking at my business? And it might take longer than that. Help me build my KPIs out. Don't try to do it all. Ask for help. I am so bad at asking for help, even in my personal life. Like, I don't know what that's about. I keep working with my therapist on that. But I really wish I had asked for help earlier and not tried to just power through it and try to figure it all out on my own. And then I am the automation queen and I love it. I'm obsessed, but I think more focus on documenting process, less jumping into building a Zap. Like, try to sit down with your team and talk about what is the flow? Like, what do we want to have happen here? I would just go right into like, okay, I'm going to build 19 Zaps. And then they're like, why is this information coming over here? The status is automatically changing. Oh my God, here's a huge tip. If you haven't listened at all this entire time, listen to this. Do not automate call reminders as tasks being added to your VA's dashboards. The moment you start automating too many tasks, they will not do any tasks because they're like, I don't know what task is actually real and what task is being created by the system. So in the beginning, I was like, oh, call this person every week for 12 weeks. And then they go to their dashboard and they had actually 127 open tasks. And there would also be a task in there to call the county and ask if they would approve the rezone. But they're like, well, I have so many automated tasks here. I don't know what the priority is. I'm really not a fan of putting any automated tasks on. Tasks should be added manually unless it's a very specific time in the process, like purchase agreement signed. Okay, we know when the PA is signed, Mandy needs to reach out to title. We need to execute final due diligence, blah, 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 blah. But that's my rants on tasks.
That's so good. Yeah, that's so good. So much value in just that answer. So good. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Let me ask, what's your biggest passion or goal you'd like to achieve at this point in your life?
Well, I am working with my I have like a spiritual guide guy, which is like a whole new thing for me, and he's helping me develop my dream. And a lot of elements of the dream, first and foremost are around building a family and having a great marriage and a great, having kids and kids that respect me, that we have fun together. And that's really like kind of the first and foremost, most important thing. And the second thing is kind of the community here. And I really love cooking. We love entertaining. We love hosting, like being a place. My parents always had a house where everyone would come over and eat and be. That was kind of that like central hub. And I have created that and want to continue to have that. And then third is have thriving businesses. And the dream is that my employee, everyone that works for me, feels comfortable butting heads with me and pushing back on me. Because in the beginning, I thought I was always right. And I'm like, this is my company. I know what to do. No, I don't. I'm not front lines anymore. I don't, I have good ideas, but I want to be in a place where everyone feels comfortable being open and honest and having transparent conversations. And, we say love you to people that we all really love each other, and having that kind of family element. Like, people have cried on leadership meetings saying what they need and emotionally what they're not getting from the company. And at first that was I'm like, what is going on? And now I'm like, I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, that is the type of atmosphere that I want, and that's what makes it fun to come to work.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I love I could talk for another hour, just hear you talk for another hour about build your culture in your business and that kind of thing, because that's one of my favorite topics.
I love it.
But my gosh, that is really incredible. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So before we jump to the questions, I just want to thank you so much for giving to us today. You've been so generous with your expertise and with your time. How can we give back to you right now? What resources or connections are you currently looking for?
You are the best. Well, we have a huge deal that we need to close next Friday. So if anyone wants to learn more, the buy is a $325,000 property we're rezoning to multifamily. If that's in anyone's wheelhouse, or if they know any investor that would be open to talking about that. It's currently ag. We're rezoning it. There's a whole story behind it. So if anyone's like, okay, I might know an investor that'd be interested, let me know. That's kind of hot on the table. And then I have a couple upcoming courses for REI Optimize. I have a free masterclass next Wednesday on ringless voicemails. Next Wednesday at noon. You can sign up on my website. Come join us. We'll be chatting all things RVMs, and stay in touch with me. I have a little stay in touch button on my website. I do pop-up boot camps and different things, and I love teaching. It is so much fun, and I've made so many mistakes, and it's really a joy to help people not make the same mistakes that I did.
Absolutely. I love that, giving back to the community. Can you, where can we get your contact info? How do you want people to reach out to you? Do you have a website?
I do. I'll put it in the chat here. It's reioptimize.com. And then to see the upcoming stuff that we have, we keep this up to date. It's just reioptimize.com/services. And that has the upcoming kind of free master classes and live group courses. So I have a texting group course that starts in August. Then I have a ringless voicemail group course that starts in July. Every group course, live group course that I do, I guarantee the results on that. So I'm not saying I would never do this, but I have never just sold like a recorded course. Everything I do is very hands-on, done with you, so that you see results. And if you don't see results from it, then you get your money back, because but comes with some parameters. Again, newbies, I really want you to start with mail. Just start with mail, do 5 deals, make 100 grand, and then call me. Because when the leads when you're doing these different types of modern marketing, you have to have a VA as the first touch. You will not be able to handle it by yourself. But once you get those first couple deals under your belt and you feel like you're ready to hire a VA and ready to do more, then call me.
Love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much again for sharing with us. Thank you so much for joining us. You've been absolutely incredible. Thanks, enjoyed this conversation. And thank you everyone for joining us and asking fantastic questions. Look forward to chatting with each and every one of you. If we can ever help, please reach out. OnlyLandFans.com. Very active on Facebook Messenger as well. And so would love to have you. All right, everyone, take care, be great, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
If you're interested in hearing from other 6- and 7-figure land flippers about how they've built and run their businesses, then check out my group, OnlyLandFans, where I do a live interview each week inside the group. You can grab that link at the description below. Until then, be great, have a great week, and catch you in the next one.